Do you believe that the Chinese government is perpetrating a genocide on the Uyghur people?
There's no shortage of news here today. Welcome back to Moose on Loose. My name's David. Today, we've got two RCMP union officials alleging that there's been election interference. We've got Mark Carney blatantly lying during another press conference, because that's what he does. He lies twice within 30 seconds. We got more updates on the fuel situation here. We got a bunch of stuff. Let's jump into this. Starting this episode off, we got truckers in Australia have become stranded as many gas stations have run out of fuel. So Donald Trump feeling the pressure here to open the Strait of Hormuz. As Table Salt says here, some estimates have 500 gas stations in Australia have run out of either diesel or regular gas.
On a quarter of a tank. Been driving for about 500 kilometers and not a drop of diesel anywhere. So this is a service station that's run completely out of diesel, and these trucks here are all waiting. And this is like this across South Australia and now Victoria.
So we're now seeing supply chain systems breaking down because there's not enough fuel. And I believe Australia gets 80 to 90% of all of their fuel from the Middle East. Now, the real reason Australia is having these shortages as well, they used to have 8 refineries 25 years ago. Now they only have 2. They focus on net zero, and this is where it's got them. We got Mark Nixon posting this footage here. Australians across the country are running out of gas.
Talk about shell shock. At North Ryde, no ride. The billboard's blank. The taps are off, and everyone's feeling a little empty.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
As this fuel crisis starts to stare Sydney in the face.
Very worrying.
Statewide, 59 service stations tonight sit empty. More than 200 have no diesel, and more than 300 have a limited range of unleaded. At this Shell site in Cromer, fuel rationing. The 50-litre limit with a ban on tanks and cans. Sydney hasn't seen anything like it in any real way since 1979.
Bloody ridiculous, mate. Can't believe it.
Not going to last very long in this car.
It's true, those who drive Ford Rangers say they're now paying $240 to fill diesel tanks. Some are paying much more.
Oh, yeah.
As others hoard at home.
Panic buying.
Yeah, gotta bring the conflict to an end. Australia is a clear warning, 8 refineries down to 2, now heavily dependent on imports and getting squeezed when supply tightens. We also have mortgage broker Ron Butler posting this. New Zealand produces no oil at all, and they closed their last gasoline refinery in 2022. They import 100% gasoline, almost all from China, who shut gasoline exports 3 weeks ago. New Zealand is kind of screwed. Yeah, so they're not the only country. A lot of countries learning the power of having your own production of energy. Moving ahead, we've got Melissa with this. No way the Buy Canadian signs are coming down in some grocery stores now. Does this mean some elbows are coming down too? Is the movement collapsing? This is interesting. Sobeys owner Empire to remove some Buy Canadian signage. Moving ahead, we've got Mark Carney here lying to Canadians again because that's what he does best. I don't know if he just pulls this out of his butt or he plans to lie, but here he is lying again.
Now, let me just make one point. I'm going to go off script here. Let's put in perspective what Canada does for the Arctic. We already have the second largest icebreaker fleet in the world after Russia. Once our icebreaker program is completed, we will have the largest. We will have the largest. We will have 42 icebreakers. The Americans have 1. Americans have 1. We're going to help them build them, but we are taking responsibility for our defense in the Arctic, the defense of our coast.
So he said we have the second largest fleet, we'll have the largest in the world, and America only has 1. So we'll start off with Carney saying that we'll have 42 icebreakers, which will be the most in the world. Russia has the world's largest icebreaker fleet. Now, how many do they have? Well, they've got 57. The last I checked, 42 is less than 57. Canada has 18 icebreakers right now, and he says going up to 42. Now, his second lie is saying that America has 1 icebreaker, right off of Foreign Policy Research Institute. So talking about icebreakers, says polar icebreakers with China operates 4 with a 5th on the way. United States can only muster 3. 3 icebreakers, not 1, 3. So I don't know where he pulls this stuff out of his butt, but it's 2 lies in 1 clip. And while we're talking about Carney, why do they post this? This is embarrassing. Last night, Budget 2025 received royal assent. Congrats, guys. It's 2026. Champagne with a big greasy grin. Has Reclamaire posts. The government punks itself. March 26, 2026. Legislation passes to implement Budget 2025. Yeah, congrats, guys. It's almost April. April, time for another budget. And we've got Carney here talking about $1 trillion in investment over the next decade. He basically lists out what his investments are, what Brookfield's priorities are, which is what will become Canada's priorities. These are not stock tips, but...
Now, the core of our economic strategy is catalyzing private investment. $1 trillion of investment over the course of the next decade in major projects, in housing, defense, obviously, artificial intelligence, critical minerals, clean and conventional energies. And part of the way we're doing that is through a new major projects office, which is a single point of contact to get nation-building projects built faster, approved within 2 years. We've already referred over 120 billion worth of projects, from everything from nuclear to ports to LNG to critical minerals.
Oh, that's right. That's how they're going to build Canada strong, is by having everything go to a single point of contact, which slows things down. This is ridiculous. Canada has thousands of major projects that get started that are worked on every single year. You think thousands of those going through a single office is a good idea? This just goes to show he doesn't know how to run government. He knows how to run the Brookfield Party of Canada. That's all he is. He's an extension of Brookfield to help them make profits. I'm glad everyone's getting it now. $1 trillion to Brookfield projects. No amount of money will ever satisfy this parasite. Always planning, projecting, meeting, devising, scheming, never accomplishing. Oh God, another decade under him? That's going to be insufferable. I don't think he knows what it means to fast track. No. Moving ahead, we've got Michael Ma coming out with this statement on his brand new X account because his other one is locked down, so he created a new one. He's a father, a husband, businessman, defender of Uyghur camps in China. Today, during an exchange with a witness at the Standing Committee on Industry and Technology, I asked questions that inadvertently came across as dismissive of the serious issue of forced labor. To be clear, my line of questioning referred to auto manufacturing in Shenzhen, China, and not Xinjiang. I regret this mistake and apologize to Ms. McQuaig Johnston and my fellow committee members. I condemn forced labor in all its forms. He doesn't name China. He will never mention China. Canada has amongst the most rigorous forced labor import laws in the world, and I'm proud to support the government's work to eradicate forced labor, form supply chains, and enforce Canada's import prohibition. I think this is all. He got a little slap on the wrist, said, go create a new X account and put out a little fiddle diddle, and you're all good, Mike. This is pathetic. Carney is hitching his wagons to the Chinese forced labor, human rights abuses in China. That's what he wants to be wrapped up in. That's what his legacy is now. We also got this article here coming out of China. This is translated. You can see this is what it looked like. Having a recount of the whole situation. March 26 local time, at a hearing held by Canadian Parliament's Industry Committee, Liberal MP Michael Ma's barrage of questions suddenly created a tense atmosphere, and his stammering responses caused an uproar. Oh my God. So this article goes on to say that there's no forced labor in China. Of course, that's what it says. In response to the unfounded accusations by Canadian media against relevant Chinese industries, a spokesperson from the Chinese embassy in Canada emphasized that there's no such thing as forced labor in China. Oh yeah, sure. There's videos and clips all over X right now of the forced labor in China. And while we're talking about this, we've got Pierre Poilievre from a couple years ago dropping truth bombs on why Mark Carney will not condemn this. He won't talk about this, will not say anything negative about the region of Xinjiang. It's because a very critical component of Brookfield's business comes from there.
Mr. Carney, can you tell me the countries from which your company sources the polysilicon that goes into its solar panels?
I mean, off the top of my head, I can't, but I can tell you that a number of the solar arrays, or the main components of solar arrays, and I would come from China, which is one of the largest producers. In fact, is the largest producer in the world of solar arrays.
Yes, that is true. In fact, half of the polysilicon, which is the main raw material used to make solar wafers, is produced in the highly secretive coal-powered factories in the Xinjiang region, the same place the communist regime is carrying out a genocide against the Muslim minority. I'm going to quote Reuters here. Quote, some U.S. lawmakers have voiced growing concern that the industry is dependent upon products, specifically the raw material polysilicon, linked to work camps in China's Shenzhen region. The U.S. State Department has made a determination that Chinese officials are perpetrating genocide there, and imports of cotton and tomato products from the region were banned this year. Will you make the commitment on behalf of Brookfield that you will not source any materials from the Shenzhen region?
I'll make the commitment that we will not source materials that have the supply chain that you described, yes.
So does that mean you will not source any materials for your solar panels from the Xinjiang region?
Well, I think one has to look at, I don't have with me today the exact source, the exact...
Yeah, well, we can't, let's not go that far because it's all about making money around here. Here's some footage from 2020 of someone who risked their life to get footage of this facility, which was later verified by BBC and NPR. And keep in mind, we can see this on Google Maps. We can see it from above getting bigger in size. If you saw the previous video, they had thousands of people with those mug shots. I mean, it's just heartbreaking stuff. And they keep making these facilities bigger. They keep putting more people in these detention centers. And after these detention centers, a lot of time, then they move them over to forced labor camps. And some of them, they're building the camps directly attached to these facilities. And Carney's like, oh, no, we don't really care about that. It's all about money.
Exact companies and the specifics. So I'm not, if I may, I'm not going to take the reference from a media report and apply it as fact, but certainly ethical sourcing is important to us at Brookfield. Yes.
Well, that's a nice talking point, but you would think you would know one way or the other whether your materials are, being that you are responsible for environment, social, and governance for this massive $500 billion enterprise, that you would know off the top of your head if the materials were coming from a place known for slavery, genocide, and coal-fired electricity.
What I'm saying, Mr. Polyev, is I do not believe that that is the case.
You haven't verified
and so you've asked me the question. Well, I have no reason to believe that it is the case. No.
Yeah. Okay. But you don't know. It just seems astonishing to me that someone who's responsible for environment, social, and governance would not want to guarantee that raw materials for your products are not coming from that kind of a region. And you've just said that the provenance is China. Well, the region in China where this material is produced is the Xinjiang region. So I'm just shocked that you haven't looked into this. It seems like you're concerned more with shareholder profits than you are with human rights and social justice. Your executive, I'm going to ask a question now. Your CEO says that a third of Brookfield's business will be in China within 25 years. China is the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world. Why are you moving your resources and your capital to a country that has such intense emissions of greenhouse gases when that's the opposite of what you state is your purpose?
Well, to be clear on the specific, my role at Brookfield, which is to develop a strategy, which we are developing, which is to invest in companies, remove and eliminate greenhouse gases. So that's the impact, that's the transition approach. So what one does in that situation, if you may follow, is you go to where the emissions are and you convert dirty activities to green activities. And in fact, this is I believed when I accepted the invitation, was the focus of this this committee, is how we could do it for Canada. And so Brookfield is working. What I'm doing, you keep representing, if I may, you keep representing.
I think Pierre's got to bring this line of questioning back to the House of Commons. Say, when you're at Brookfield, you're helping steer the company's business, third of it in China, where they're the biggest polluter on planet Earth. Sticking it to him the next time he mentions low carbon oil in our country.
Plenty of time, sir.
May I
please go on to my next question?
Well, actually, I wouldn't mind, rather than having your characterization of what I do, being allowed to give what I do, the facts of what I do, and what my responsibilities are. Okay. And my responsibilities at Brookfield are developing a transition fund, which we think will be world leading, which is to help.
And I'm commenting on the impact that has on human rights around the world, sir. That's the point.
And so I'll their greenhouse gas emissions.
A final question.
So you notice he mentioned we're developing a fund. This is his fund, the Brookfield Global Transition Fund 1. He developed this back then. He knew the whole plan. The runway was to get in with Justin Trudeau as his advisor, which he did. Nobody's talking about this, but he became advisor to Justin Trudeau and joined Brookfield in the same month. This is a plan from the start. I think Chrystia Freeland helped Mark Carney get Justin Trudeau out by her big famous move there where she was supposed to present the budget. She refused to, blew up Trudeau's campaign. It forced Trudeau out and it allowed Carney to come in. Freeland helped Carney come in. She backstabbed Trudeau, and now Freeland's placed over in the Ukraine to help Brookfield get contracts for the rebuilding of Ukraine. That's what's going on right now. And Carney's planning this from the start. He had Trudeau on board and then they betrayed him. They backstabbed him, but obviously he's going to go along with it because he's still profiting from it handsomely himself. And the whole time, Poilievre knew. He knew years ago. I mean, we got him here grilling Carney on this stuff back then.
A final question, an ethical way. Thank you. Do you believe that the Chinese government is perpetrating a genocide on the Uyghur people? Put shareholder profits aside and just focus on humanity here for a moment.
I focus on humanity. I spend
so yes or no?
Focus on humanity, which
yes or no?
To my,
yes or
I'm
no?
deeply concerned by the situation and with the
yes or no.
Thank you very much, Mr. Poilievre. Unfortunately,
shareholders first, protecting the.
Stop. What is a stop sign? Shareholders first. That's right. Carney couldn't answer the question. He's deeply concerned. When it comes down to it, he can't condemn China. That whole area, Brookfield makes the money there. He's in bed with China. The Carney government has been compromised. This is not the only time the topic of forced labor has come up. Steve Bonk had a great video on this. I've had this on the Moose chart here for well over a year and a half. Forced labor allegations here for this rainforest deforestation between 2012 and 2022. Part of which this time, not the entire time, obviously, Carney was chairing Brookfield. He came in at 2020, so a couple of years of this. And so this just goes to show, with this kind of record, Carney came in and accepted this job knowing full well what kind of company he was getting involved with. I don't think he seems to care about human rights, the welfare of people. I mean, look what's happening in our own country. He doesn't give a crap about how badly he's running our country just because he's running it in a way to make himself profits. Moving ahead, we've got quite the story. This coming from the Ottawa Citizen. It says 2 RCMP union officials quit, allege election interference in scathing resignation letter. The dispute follows a court application filed against the union by an individual RCMP member concerning millions in alleged payments to the union's board of directors. It says here 2 senior officials within the RCMP have quit the organization and issued a scathing letter of resignation alleging interference and pressure on the part of the union's leadership. Neil Vade and Jordan Irvine resigned as chair and vice chair respectively of the National Police Federation's Nomination Election Committee on Monday, March 23rd, circulating a statement among the membership that alleged the board has been overtaken by a voting majority determined to control the outcome of upcoming elections. This is the union that represents the RCMP. And we've got 2 members here alleging that they're interfering in the union election process here. It says the board has accepted their resignations. Their parting statement is factually incorrect and prejudicial and will not engage in personal attacks and hyperbole set out in a statement on social media. And then it goes on to say a rare glimpse into the inner workings of the MPF, which 20,000 members of this union, Canada's largest police union, and one of the biggest police unions in North America. The original letter of the union both alluded to controversy around the eligibility of candidates. Both Vade and Irvine stated that the voting majority on the board has interfered in the election process in support of what appears to be handpicked candidates aligned with a planned succession of power. The letter said that the candidates who were not on board endorsed being singled out for targeted removal, while others may have been ineligible were not being examined further. This further goes on to talk about there's a separate court filing, which we see here, alleges $3.39 million in union dues that Atwood alleged a previous board of directors, including Sauve and 15 others, paid themselves without alerting the membership. This is a mess here. So this article goes on to say here, both Vade and Irving's letter noted that the nominations and election committee was designed to include 2 members who would exist independently of the board, who were elected by delegates at AGMs. Instead, by their account, the board began stripping them of independence, including suspending their credentials and denying them access to election materials. So this is the union representing the RCMP. They are allegedly interfering in the election process here. They can't get their stuff together. There's a separate court filing of $3.39 million. This does not look good for Canada. And moving ahead, we've got this one. This is a sad story. That's Jack pointing out here what a difference a headline makes. Spanish woman to perish by euthanasia after long legal battle with father versus gang of monsters attacked her. She's 25, perishes by euthanasia after father's legal challenge fails. So I believe she tried to end herself once and became paraplegic, and then she got the shot to end herself because of the monsters going after her. It's disgusting. And here's another screenshot. If you want to read that, I can't read this stuff out. There's some serious monsters in this world.